Hello, and welcome to a Pokemon XD Gale Darkness video, where today I'm going to be completing the game with Torkoal. And Torkoal is a pretty cool Pokemon, being based off of Tortoise, and I think overall it's going to do okay throughout the game, but it does have significant issues that might slow down progress to a halt. And, well, I guess I'll go ahead and get straight into it now. Torkoal has 70 HP, 85 attack, 140 defense, 85 special attack, 70 special defense, and a dreadful 20 speed, which is definitely going to hold it back because without ludicrous grinding, there's no way it's going to be able to outspeed anything. With that being said, however, its base 140 defense does mean that it's going to be able to survive attacks very well, and being a mono fire type in this game isn't terrible. There are definitely a few battles that are going to hurt it, but I think overall it's still fine. Now moving on to its moves, and unfortunately it gets access to mostly normal and fire type attacking moves, which isn't the most synergistic, but at least it gets the best of those move types, including Body Slam, Flamethrower, and specifically the move Heat Wave, a 100 base power spread fire type move, which I do think is going to allow Torkoal to get through fights a little faster than if it was just using Flamethrower. But I do think it does suffer a 50% damage penalty because it's a spread move. But anyway, Torkoal definitely doesn't do best on the offensive side. However, its defensive side is really solid, getting moves like Protect, Curse, Iron Defense, and Amnesia, which is going to help it survive. And once I get the Leftovers item, I think that Torkoal is going to do incredibly well. It's just going to take a while to actually get to that point. But with that, let's go ahead and move on to our Torkoal in particular, which has a quiet nature, raising its special attack but lowering its speed, which is simultaneously the best thing that could happen to it and also the worst. There's no way I'm outspeeding anything, but its speed is already so bad that if I don't have to worry about it at all, I can just ignore it completely. It gets the White Smoke ability, which prevents its stats from being lowered, which is very nice, and it starts with Ember, Smog, and Curse at level 10. So with that, let's go ahead and move on to the Old Man, and even though Torkoal's speed stat is detrimental throughout the early game, its other stats are still strong enough to where it doesn't really have to worry about too much in the early game. Though with that being said, I am very glad that Teddiursa is helping it out, because if it could just take a few of these water guns, I'd be in a much better position. Now, unfortunately, my embers aren't doing enough to take Horsey down to half, and I actually get taken down very low. So if I get hit one more time, I'm out. Okay, well that's a bit unfortunate. I go back into the battle again. This time I decide to take down everything but the Abra, because Abra can't actually do anything to me other than the possible status effect. Now moving on, at level 14, Torkoal gets the move Smokescreen, which might come in handy. And then I go into the battle against the Power Rangers, where today I decide to fight Green because I have super effective damage against all of his Pokemon, and the grass types at this point are all fairly slow, so I know I can outspeed everything. Now, Torkoal is an interesting Pokemon, and there has been a strategy I've wanted to use for a very long time, though I never actually had the courage to do it, and I think Torkoal is going to be a great Pokemon to use it because of its extremely low speed, and I'll get into what that is in just a moment. But anyway, I'm just going to do a little bit of rambling real quick. If you are enjoying this video so far, consider liking, and if you have any Pokemon suggestions, please put them down below. Anyway, we beat Green, and then we move into the Cypher base, where at level 20 I get the move Body Slam, which I teach over Smog, and then I go to Mount Battle to go beat Area 1, and this is to pick up the Macho Brace. And in hindsight, I really should have looked into what this did. In fact, I still haven't looked into what it does, but I believe it halves your speed, but it doubles your EV yield whenever you defeat a Pokemon. So I think it's going to be useful for Torkoal. Now, of course, in the Cypher base, I pick up the Numel for the Charcoal item to raise fire type damage by 10%, and then I go into the battle against Lovrina. She leads with a Love Disc and a Beautifly, and right away I get hit by a crit water gun, showing just how much damage the Love Disc could potentially do. Though luckily I do get a paralysis on it, so I'm able to take it down before it's able to hit another water gun. She then sends out Roselia, and unfortunately it's always going to outspeed, so it's such a Leech Seed. And unfortunately, this is the start of the end of this attempt. Even though I'm able to take down Roselia, she sends out her Shadow Delcatty, which is absolutely going to be able to outspeed, and there's a good chance it even takes me down with Shadow Wave here. It doesn't, but it still did quite a bit of damage. I decided to go ahead and take down the Beautifly just for the extra experience before I go down. So with that, I do a little bit of extra training until I get to level 30 where I get Flamethrower. And with that, I go back into the battle once again, this time now armed with Flamethrower and a few more levels. I go for Body Slam into the love disc, and it's able to take it down in a single hit. Then out comes Roselia, which is of course still faster than me, so it's able to set up Leech Seed, though my health is much higher in this attempt. I take it down, and then out comes the Shadow Delcatty once again. So now it's time to see if my severe level advantage and much higher Flamethrower can take it down in a single hit. Which, of course it does. Delcatty goes down, and then out comes Beautifly. And unfortunately, Beautifly can't do much to me before it goes down to a Flamethrower as well. So I beat Liverine on the third attempt, and of course, you can't have a Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness video without the obligatory Mirror B. As always, it's good to see you. Anyway, at level 33, Torkoal gets the move Iron Defense, which I decide to teach over Smoke Screen. And then I go to the Railgun Tower to go pick up my two favorite TMs, Hidden Power and Protect. And while I don't end up using Hidden Power, it was Hidden Power Electric at 50 base power. Certainly could have been fine for something. Anyway, I run into another Torkoal. Hello, other Torkoal. Goodbye, other Torkoal. Anyway, soon after that, at level 40, Torkoal gets the move Amnesia, which I decide to teach over Iron Defense because it's going to be much more useful in the battle against Snaddle. He leads with a Lantern and a Quagsire, and right away I can set up Amnesia to raise my special defense by 2 stages. Now the only thing that makes this strategy bad is if I get hit by critical hits. Anyway, I see that Body Slam is doing over half to Lantern, which is really nice, because once I get Amnesia set up, I know I can take it down in just a couple turns, or if I get a lucky crit, I can take it down immediately. Then out comes the Shadow Lunatone. Unfortunately, it's always going to be able to set up Shadow Sky, and my Flamethrower is doing half to it. So despite a very short first attempt, I got some pretty good knowledge out of it. So I go ahead and set up Amnesia just as I did before, and luckily I don't get crit right away this time. I go for Body Slam just as I did before into Lantern, knowing that it's going to take 2 hits to take it down, though there is always that 10% chance that it paralyzes it, which would be very nice. But anyway, Lantern goes down, and I'm just now realizing something in hindsight, but had I got the move Fire Blast from the Railgun Tower, I could have probably taken Lunatone down in a single hit. But I didn't end up thinking about it in this run, so it is going to take a couple Flamethrowers to take it down in this attempt anyway. And then after Lunatone goes down, out comes Castform. And I'm already taken very low. So unfortunately, even though I might be able to take down the Castform, which I do, it's unfortunately the end of the line for Torkoal. Tang comes out, and Water Gun from Quagsire takes me down. So I decided to go ahead and do a bit of extra training until I get to level 46, where I get the move Heat Wave. Now, while Heat Wave isn't going to help us too much in this fight, I do think that just it doing a little bit of damage to Quagsire while I'm attacking other opponents is going to help quite a bit. So anyway, now at level 48, Lantern is nearly a one-shot with Body Slam, and it luckily gets paralyzed, so I decided to play it a bit risky this following turn, set up another Amnesia. And unfortunately it doesn't work out in my favor, though Lantern really isn't doing that much damage anymore. I go for Body Slam to take Quagsire down to low HP, and I decide to finish it off this turn. Now I could have gone for Heat Wave to take them both down, which might have been the correct choice, because in just a moment I'm going to do that anyway, bringing Lunatone and Castform out on the field at the same time. Though I wasn't exactly sure if Lunatone was going to take half from Heat Wave. I was really hoping it would though. But anyway, I know Flamethrower can finish off the Lunatone from this point, so I go ahead and take it down. And then he sends out his final Pokemon, Matang. Castform really isn't doing that much damage, so I'm going to focus on taking down the Matang at this point, which it goes down in a single hit, and I'm actually faster than it. And then all that's left is the Castform, which nearly takes me down with a Weather Ball, but I strike back with a Flamethrower to take it down. So, a 4th attempt Snaddle, not too bad. I run into yet another Torkoal. Hello, other Torkoal. Goodbye, other Torkoal. Before the next big fight, I decide to teach Protect over Amnesia, and then I go into the battle against Gonzap. He leads with an Electrode and a Nuzleaf, and right away I go for Protect to avoid the Fake Out from Nuzleaf. Now, Electrode is just going for Sonic Boom this time, which is usually good, but because Torkoal is a defensive Pokemon, it's just going to bypass all that, so I don't want it around. Out comes Vileplume, and Heat Wave takes it and does Leaf down, sending out his final two Pokemon, a Whiscash and a Skarmory. I know for a fact I can take down Skarmory right away, so I decide to do that, and then all that's left is the Whiscash, which goes for Water Pulse, which doesn't do that much damage, though it does have a 10% chance to confuse me. Go for Body Slam, another Water Pulse, and luckily no confusion, so I take it down and beat Gonzap on the first attempt. Now at the top of the pyramid, I run into Gorgon. He leads with a Lairon and a Celio, and I have a plan for this fight. Celio uses Aurora Beam, which usually lowers attack, but because of my White Smoke ability, it won't happen, except I didn't realize that Celio actually had Water Pulse, which unfortunately confuses me. Now, I don't know if I've really ever seen Celio use Water Pulse, so this was very interesting. But anyway, of course I go down, so I come into the battle for a second attempt. This time I'm going to try to take down Celio as quick as possible, though because it has the Thick Fat ability, my Fire-type moves aren't doing nearly as much damage to it. I go for Heat Wave to take them both down, and then out comes Slowking, and then Ursaring. And so I go for Body Slam into the Slowking because Ursaring is going to protect this turn. Slowking gets taken down a half. Earthquake's really not doing that much damage to me, so I go for Protect this turn. And since Slowking is going to go for Earthquake once again, I can take it down safely, and then out comes his first Shadow Pokemon, a Shadow Primeape. And right away I'm going to take it down with Flamethrower. It of course is able to hit me with one move before it goes down, and then he sends out his final Pokemon, a Shadow Hypno. And Hypno could actually be a threat because it is a special attacker, though luckily Ursaring did just put it in a much better position for me to take it down, and a second Earthquake seals its fate. It goes for Shadow Storm, dealing less damage than I expected. Hypno goes down, Ursaring gets taken down to low yellow. It decides to go for Slash, and I finish it off with a Body Slam. So with that, we beat Gorgon on the second attempt, and now we're moving on to the final area of the game, where I think Torkoal is either going to do very well or terribly. So with that, we move into the battle against Lavrina. She leads with a Gardevoir and a Gorbis, and right away, because I am so slow, Torkoal is always going to get hit by Attract. Though luckily I'm able to get past the Infatuation, take down Gorbis in a single hit. She sends out Roselia, which outspeeds and sets up Leech Seed, and now I'm in a pretty bad situation because whether or not I take down Gardevoir doesn't matter because the Roselia is going to outspeed and use Attract on me again, basically putting me in the same position that I'm already in. And on top of that, I actually don't want to get rid of Roselia right away because she sends out Farfetch'd, her first Shadow Pokemon. And unfortunately, it has a move that causes confusion, so I want to get rid of it first, which it puts me in a very bad spot. So I decide to do a little bit of extra leveling. I get up to level 65, and I go into the battle and I see a very familiar sight, being infatuated and confused, which is unfortunately what has happened many, many, many times. However, there is one glimmer of hope, and that is I now outspeed Roselia, so I'm no longer going to be taking damage from Leech Seed. So I think there is a possibility at success. Now it won't be this battle, because I've already taken too much damage and Farfetch'd just set up Shadow Sky, but on attempt number 15, I forgot to hit record right away, but I finally get to Roselia and Gorbis without having any effects on me. Now, unfortunately, I did take quite a bit of damage in the process, but I take down Roselia, and then out comes the Shadow Farfetch'd. I go for Protect to heal up a bit, and now I need some luck either to not hit myself or not get hit by Shadow Panic. Of course, Farfetch'd always hits Shadow Panic, so I use Heat Wave, which luckily goes through, takes them both down, and then all that's left is Altaria. But I'm in a very precarious situation now. I go for Body Slam, no paralysis, I get hit by a Shadow Rave, takes me down to 8, and luckily I didn't hit myself in confusion, and I take it down. That took way too many attempts. Anyway, I run into another Torkoal. Hello, the Torkoal. Goodbye, the Torkoal. And at the top of the volcano, I run into Snaddle, who leads with a Matang and a Quagsire, and right away I go for Body Slam into the Quagsire, and it takes it down to low yellow. So I go ahead and finish it off with Heat Wave, and at the same time I take down Matang, which he then sends out Scizor, and his first Shadow Pokemon, a Shadow Solrock. Now Scizor is 4 times weak to fire, so I go ahead and take it down right away. And surprisingly, I outspeed Scizor. Solrock gets burnt, which is kinda nice, because that guarantees I can take it down in 2 Heat Waves, and by using Protect here, I can lower its health even a bit more, and also stall out the Shadow Sky. It of course hits a Shadow Rave, and Cast Form hits 1 Water Pulse, confusing me. Of course. I hit myself in confusion, so unfortunately Solrock doesn't go down, and another Water Pulse takes me down to 23. I luckily don't hit myself this time. I know Cast Form can go down even with just a little bit of HP missing, and then he sends out his final Pokemon, a Shadow Starmie, and unfortunately I'm way too low at this point to go down immediately. So I go back into the battle once again, this time using a more defensive strategy, which means every other turn I'm going to hit Protect. That way I can heal up a bit more. That way I guarantee that once I get to Starmie, I'm going to have a bit more health. So just as before, I hit the Quagsire with Body Slam to lower its HP, lower enough for Heat Wave to take it and Metang down, then out comes Solrock and Scizor. And this time I decided to just go for Flamethrower to take down the Solrock immediately, though unfortunately it's not quite a one-shot. Now, I could be greedy at this point and take them both down, however that would send out both the Cast Form and the Starmie, which is definitely not a combination I want. So I'm going to take down the Solrock first, and then I can stall another turn, hopefully get the Fruity Pebbles gone by the time the Starmie comes out, which should hopefully allow me to take a couple of Shadow Storms. Anyway, I go for Protect, and then on the following turn, because the Cast Form is taking just a little bit of chip damage from the Fruity Pebbles, I can go for Heat Wave, which should take it down from this point, which it does. Scizor of course goes down, and then out comes the Shadow Starmie once again. The Shadow Sky fades, go for Protect just to heal up a bit, and then I go for Body Slam. And I'm glad I decided to go for that Protect, though luckily I do get a Paralysis on Starmie. I'm not sure why I protected there, I think that was just out of habit. But anyway, I beat Snettle on the 3rd attempt. Now moving on to Ardos, he leads with a Shadow Swallow and Alakazam, and I go for Heat Wave right away, which does take down Swallow, and nearly takes down Alakazam, but the Fruity Pebbles should finish it off. He then sends out Kingdra and his Heracross, which I should be able to take down Heracross in a single hit. I decide to go for Protect to stall out the Shadow Sky, and unfortunately, the Kingdra is going for Hydro Pump, which it makes a lot of sense, I guess. Double Edge from Heracross is still doing a bit as well. I go for Body Slam into Kingdra, which takes it down to low red, but unfortunately it does just enough HP to survive 2 rounds of Shadow Sky, so I can't take it down right away. And so I am forced to hope it misses Hydro Pump. It is only 80% accurate, so there is a small chance. And it actually missed. Kingdra almost never misses. Go for Heat Wave to take it down, and take the Heracross down, and then he sends out his 2 final Pokemon, Shadow Electabuzz and Shadow Snorlax. Now, usually whenever these 2 are out together, Electabuzz is going to go for Shadow Mist to lower my evasiveness. However, as we just saw, Electabuzz is going for Shadow Storm, which is not what I was hoping to see, and Snorlax of course takes me down. Now, I do think I have a possible solution to this, and that's teaching the move Sunny Day. I do lose Body Slam. However, Sunny Day is going to reduce the amount of damage that Hydro Pump does, which could help a bit, and also it's going to raise my fire type damage. Now, the issue right away is that even if I try to set it up on the first turn, Swallow is just going to counteract it with another Shadow Sky. I was really hoping it would go for Shadow Break instead, but apparently it's not going to work on the first turn. So I decided to try to set it up in front of Kingdra, but this time it actually hits a Hydro Pump, and it does about 1/3 of my health. But to make matters worse, if Sunny Day is up, Kingdra has the choice to go for Dragon Breath, which is a bit weaker, but it has a 30% chance to paralyze, which is practically a death sentence for Torkoal. So I decided to go ahead and do a good amount of training to get Torkoal all the way up to level 80. This is so it survives attacks a bit better, and it guarantees one-shots against most of the Pokemon here, including Kingdra getting taken down much lower, hoping that the Fruity Pebbles actually finish it off now. So I go for Protect to stall out a turn of the Shadow Sky, and then I go for Body Slam into Kingdra, and at this level I'm able to take down Kingdra in a single hit. Luckily the Hydro Pump misses as well, which is very nice. Out comes Electabuzz, and Electabuzz wasn't playing very nice when it was with Snorlax. However, now that it's with Heracross, it actually goes for Shadow Half, which is incredibly useful because I can now go for Heat Wave and take both of them down in a single turn, which just leaves the Snorlax. And even though Snorlax could be dangerous because of my extremely high defense, its Shadow Ends are really only going to deal more damage to itself than me. So despite going for Protect for safety reasons, I go for Body Slam, and it hits me dealing almost nothing, having its remaining HP, and Body Slam finishes it off, beating Ardos on the 6th attempt. Now moving on to Gorgon, he leads with a Slowking and an Ursaring, and right away I go for Body Slam into Slowking because Ursaring is going to Protect. Unfortunately, Body Slam isn't quite enough to take down the Slowking. I go for Heat Wave to take it down and deal a good amount of damage to Ursaring. It survives on a sliver. Then out comes Aggron, and I go for Flamethrower to take down Aggron, and then he sends out Walrein, which, just like Celio before it, does have the Thick Fat ability, so my Fire-type moves aren't going to be dealing a ton of damage to it. So I go for Body Slam, taking it down to low red. It hits an Earthquake, not dealing anything to me. I go for Heat Wave to take both of them down, and then he sends out his two Shadow Pokemon, a Shadow Poliwrath and a Shadow Mr. Mime. And these two together actually aren't all that dangerous on the first turn because Poliwrath always wants to set up Shadow Sky, and unfortunately Mr. Mime outspeeds it. So I can go for Body Slam to take down Mr. Mime, and that just leaves the Poliwrath. It uses Shadow Storm, dealing about a quarter of my health. I go for Body Slam, and as long as it doesn't get a crit, I think I'm fine. It doesn't, and I'm able to take it down. So with that, we beat Gorgon on the first attempt, and we move on to Eldis. He leads with a Shadow Manectric and Ninjask, and right away I go for Body Slam to take down Manectric. Then he sends out his next Shadow Pokemon, a Shadow Salamence. And Salamence is a bit of a dangerous threat, though because of my White Smoke ability, Intimidate actually doesn't do anything to me. Now, one of the benefits to being a Fire type is that the Ninjask is always going to go for Dig, which is easily the best thing it can go for because I can just Protect every other turn and completely ignore it. So I go for Protect, and Body Slam is actually doing quite a bit to Salamence as well. So I go for another Body Slam to finish it off. It of course outspeeds and hits a Shadow Rush, not really doing that much damage. Salamence goes down, and then out comes Flygon. Now unfortunately I am going to have to use Body Slam against Flygon as well, though it will take a couple hits to actually take down. And because I'm having to Protect every other turn, it is going to take a while. And Flygon is actually going for Dragon's Breath, which is a little dangerous, though luckily I do get a Paralysis, so I don't need to worry about it. Okay, well I decided to go ahead and take the hit and then go for Body Slam to take it down, and then he sends out possibly his most dangerous Pokemon, Shadow Marowak. Now to see if I can take it down in a single hit, I can, so it's not a threat at all. And then that just leaves Lapras, which I decide to go for Heat Wave. That takes care of the Ninjask and deals a decent amount of damage to Lapras. Taking it down to nearly half, it gets a lucky burn. So I know for a fact I can finish it off with Flamethrower and beat Eldis on the first attempt pretty easily. Now moving on to the big box legendary, Shadow Lugia. And of course I go for Body Slam, hoping for a Paralysis, which I actually do get. So now I outspeed, and there's a good chance I won't be able to attack. Go for Flamethrower, realize that that's doing right about half, so I probably could have taken it down to 2 turns anyway. But oh well. Lugia goes down, and we move on to the final boss, Gravel. He leads with a Shadow Rhydon and Moltres, and right away I go for Body Slam into Moltres to see how much damage I'm dealing, and it's over half. A lucky Paralysis is also very nice. Go for Protect to heal up a bit, and the Rhydon is going for Shadow Panic. And this is what I kind of expected. Because my defense is so high, it wants to use a status move instead. And while that is usually a bad thing, I have found a workaround that could possibly make this battle extremely easy. That is, if it actually works. Now surprisingly, Rhydon has actually missed 2 Shadow Panics, which is very nice. I go for Flamethrower to take down Tauros, and then out comes Articuno, and surprisingly, it actually misses a 3rd one. So far I haven't been confused, and I'm in a pretty good spot. Pretty Pebbles are raining down, but that's alright. I go for Flamethrower into Articuno. It does about a quarter of my health. Flamethrower takes it down in a single hit, and then he sends out his final Pokemon, a Shadow Zapdos. Rhydon decides to swap over to Shadow End, dealing a ton of damage to me, which unfortunately seals my fate because I know for a fact Zapdos outspeeds. So that was actually a surprisingly close first attempt, though I do think I have a way around Shadow Panic. And that is going to the Tutor Lady and picking up the move Substitute, which on occasion completely breaks the AI of Rhydon and other Pokemon that use status-type moves. So as long as I'm able to set it up, I think there's a good chance I can just win on the spot. So I set up Substitute, and Shadow Fire rakes it in a single hit. Okay, well, that's a bit unfortunate. I decide to go for another. Moltres is paralyzed, so there's a chance it'll be paralyzed one of these turns, right? Well, no, it actually just attacks every single turn, and so, unfortunately, I run so low on HP, I just go down. So, let's actually go to an attempt where I'm able to set it up. I take down Moltres in a single hit. Out comes Executor, which is perfect because it's probably going to go for Shadow Hold, except Rhydon just went for Shadow Hold. So Executor goes for Shadow Storm, which immediately breaks my Substitute, which allows me to get confused, and this didn't end up working out the way I was hoping. However, finally, on attempt number 11, I'm able to get everything to work. Now at level 91, after using up all my rare candies, Moltres gets paralyzed on the first turn. I go for Protect to heal up a bit, and luckily Shadow Panic misses. I use Substitute, and Moltres hits a Shadow Fire, though luckily at this level it doesn't break the Substitute in a single hit. Moltres goes down, and Rhydon has started using Shadow End. Okay, well, apparently this isn't consistent, I guess, because unfortunately, it has seen past my distractions and just breaks my Substitute. That is very unfortunate considering my whole strategy was based around that, but at this point I can just roll with it because I've gotten rid of the two biggest threats, and Tauros really can't do that much to me. My defense is just way too high, and it's really something I should have considered before this point, but I was too focused on Rhydon and the Substitute strategy. But anyway, Articuno goes down just as before, and then out comes Zapdos. And there's only a couple turns of Shadow Sky left, so I decide to protect this turn. And then on the following turn, I think I might be able to take down Zapdos in a single hit as well. Shadow Bolt does do quite a bit of damage, and Shadow Rush takes me down to 46. Flamethrower does take down Zapdos in a single hit. The Shadow Sky fades away, and Tauros is forced to set it up again, while I take it down with Flamethrower. So with that, we beat Greevil, but how well did Torkoal do? Well, it beat the game at a time of 13 hours, 56 minutes, and 2 seconds at level 91, with 44 feints throughout the game, 38 of those to bosses, and 6 of those to random trainers. So let's go over the pros and cons. I think the pros of Torkoal are its defensive stats are actually pretty decent, and its attacking stats aren't too bad. It gets access to very strong fire-type moves, and while it doesn't have the best normal-type moves or best coverage, its supporting moves really help a lot in its survivability. The big problem comes in, of course, with its low speed, and no other trainer really shows just how bad it is than Laverina, who took 15 attempts to beat. And it's just because she spreads all kinds of status and other type effects that Torkoal really can't fend off because it's just so slow, and there were a lot of trainers that could take advantage of that. On top of that, anything with even a decent speed stat outspeeds it without an absurd level advantage. So unfortunately, Torkoal does find itself in the middle of the C tier, though I do think that overall it is still a very good Pokemon. So with that, if you did enjoy this video, consider liking and subscribing. If you have any Pokemon suggestions, please put them down below. Thank you so much for watching, and bye!